Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ahmaduhu wa nasalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Okay, so we continue about immediate inferences. And we've covered conversion and we've also covered obversion. Yes? So far, so good? Okay. Now, in here we do contradictory. What are we doing? Contradictory. Now, before we go to contradictory, let's understand the square of opposition. Remember we have the A, E, I, O. So what we say here is we have four boxes. We have the A, and on the other side of A we have, so basically when we have any proposition, for example, we're taking the A proposition for example, we can get the same proposition, the same subject and the same predicate and give information about that. So for example, if you have the subject humans, and we have the predicate mortals, humans and mortals. Instead of the A, what would be the E of this? No humans are mortals. What would be the I of this? Some humans are mortals. And the O of this? Some humans are not mortals. Now obviously we know what's right, what's not right. That's just coincidentally we know the information. But when we have A, all A is B, no A is B, some A is B, some A are not B. So this is how, when you have the equivalent of all of these, so you can have a square of opposition. Are you following? So this how, so we had that square, we did the square all the time, the A, the E, the I, and the O. Now if you have the same information, obviously here it wouldn't make sense, because obviously only one can be true, but we know that. But let's say we had letters and said all A are B, no A are B, some A are B, and some A are not B. We don't know what's true or not in that one. So we have four different possibilities, correct? And that's the square of proposition. Now what's going to happen here now, from this table you're going to learn I think three or four ways of deduction, of direct inference, direct deduction. Okay? The first is called contradictory. Okay? What does this mean? When you have two statements, two propositions, what do you have? Well, we always do two. But it is these two, so it's one proposition, but in such a way that the other, if one is true, the other has to be false. You get what I'm saying? For example, the A, if it goes across like this in table, X. So the contradictory of an A is going to be what? An O. So just by knowing the A, what do we know about the O? The O equivalent is going to be what? False. The A and the O, that is a different one. A and E as well, but that's called contradictory. It's called contrary. That's a bit different. You have subordination, alternation, contradictory. Contrary is a bit. But we talk about contradictory, contradiction first, right? So because it goes in the X, the A contradicts the O and the E contradicts the I. So just by knowing one of these four, we will know the contradictory has to be false. Do you understand? You follow me? So if you have an A proposition, then automatically what do you know from this? What's going to be false? The O can't be true. And if the O is true, then the A can't be false. And the O meaning some are, and then and here means some are, and we know for sure that some are not. Do you understand? Some A are not B. So some A are not B in the E proposition, in the A, E, I, O, and O proposition. Then the A can't be true. Or A or B. It can't be true. It can't be true. It wouldn't make sense. Okay. Do you understand? This is called tanaqud. Naqid is called tanaqud, to be contradictory. You understand? So in factual matters, A and B, you can't have contradiction in factual matters. It is illogical. And in ethics, if you have contradiction, you're a hypocrite. You get it? Or there's inconsistencies. So if something is factual, it can't be contradictory because it can't be true. One is false. And if you're talking about morals and ethics, that means that you have an A and an E, and A, E, I, O, A and an O, or an I, A, E, and an I. And these two are there, then you know there's something wrong in your morals, or your ethics, or your hypocritical behavior, or whatever it is. You following? I'll give an example here. So again, simple example. All Muslims are monotheists. If we know this statement, then for sure, what do we know? We know that some Muslims are monotheists. So some Muslims are not monotheists is false. Yes, if this is true, that all Muslims are monotheists, if we can prove this, if this is true data, then definitely we have to know that some Muslims are not monotheists is false. It can't be true. Do you understand? The O of this, A-E-I-O, the O of this has to be false. It can't be true. It's just impossible. So some Muslims are not monotheists can't be true. So if we have all humans are mortals, the opposite, the contradictory of this is going to be what? Some humans are not mortal. And if we have no humans are immortal, then the contradictory has to be what? Some humans are immortal. And if one is true, the other has to be false. Both can't be true. Do you understand? Okay? So you get it? We do a lot of examples of that. It's coming up then. Now, for contradiction to be true, there has to be some conditions. And we have 8 conditions. Sometimes for 8, you can even add on as you want. What does it mean? That you have to be sure. Basically, this summarizes to, are you sure? Are you talking about the same thing at the same time, in the same place, in the same aspect, in the same conditions? That's what it basically means. Are you actually, is there actual contradiction or not? Yes, so for example, look, I say here. Let's go through bit by bit. So you have to have the same subject. Obvious, isn't it? If I say, for example, all Muslims are monotheists, some Christians are monotheists. The contradictory. Obviously, the subject is different. I know it's really obvious, but yeah, just like codify. You can't contradiction. But what, see, you're laughing, right? But what could happen is you can have equivocation. That both people are using the same word for the same subject, but don't mean the same thing. You get what I'm saying? Do you understand? You get what I'm trying to say? For example, what do we say here? You could say, for example, like you say all Sahaba, for example, and you say all Sahaba are A, all Sahaba B, equality. Now you say the word Sahaba. Let's say, for example, like let me get an example. Let's say, for example, we do deduction that all the companions have A quality because the Prophet said, Ashabi like this. But is the Prophet sallallahu, what do you mean by Sahaba? Do we mean every single person who the Prophet sallallahu, who saw the Prophet sallallahu as a Sahabi and remained at, you know that is Sahabi, isn't it? Every person who saw the Prophet as a Muslim and that is a Muslim? Or is Sahaba something different? Because, example, the Prophet is speaking. He says, Ashabi, what comes in the hadith? La tadkhulu ghardan min ba'di. So when the Prophet is saying my ashab, who's he talking to? Us, who came afterwards, or those who were present then. That means that within the people there, they were ashab and non-ashab, isn't it? You get what I'm trying to say? Like, what's the point of saying, all of you, be good to my family? Like, probably all your family. You get what I'm trying to say? So when you say Sahaba, and the Prophet said ashab, the wording will be the same, but it's equivocation, so it's not really the same subject. So obviously this is very obvious, a very stupid one, and very dopey. But what can happen, where does this come up? That using the same word, but both terms are being used differently. Do you understand? So it looks like there's a contradiction because the terms are not being used the same way. Either there's a different meaning for the terms, or the terms are being used differently in terms of one is what? Dalal iltizam or mutabaqa or iltizam or tadammun. You're talking about the kull, the part, the whole, or the quality. So in this way you can have this will become useful. If not, it's like this is obviously duh. Everybody knows this. You can't talk about two different things, contradictory, not the same subject. But the difference can occur when there's equivocation. Do you understand? So what is the contradictory of all Muslims are monotheists? Some Muslims are not monotheists. And this is the real contradiction. If you have this, we say, really, now it's a contradiction. These two can't be true. This is basically not the same subject, so it doesn't matter here. Predicate. All Muslims are monotheists. Some Muslims are not Hajis. Contradiction. How is that contradiction? You're talking about eggs and two different things. You get it? What's the real contradiction of this? Some Muslims are not monotheists. Unity of place. All students are present in the class. Everyone say, oh, that's not true because what? Some students are not present in the hall. This is class. This is hall. What will be the real contradiction? Some students are not present in the class.
What is the unity of place and predicate?
Predicate is to do, I get what you're saying. Because what we do, we're making the predicate part of the place, isn't it? All students are beings, all students are things present in the class. Or all students, but yeah, we get the idea. But see, this is very important. When you see Quranic verses or you see ahadith, it seems to contradict. It's because one of these 8 things are missing. Some people say, oh, the contradiction in the Quran because one of these 8 things are missing. You don't understand what's missing. You're just assuming everything's literal. You're not understanding deeper. Because you can't say, man, I'm talking to you. I was feeling sick at home on Monday, 5th of January in my head. So you weren't feeling sick, your foot wasn't hurting, you were talking about my foot, talking about my head, I had a headache. But I'm not going to say each minute to be like, it's not like a law book in it. So I'm not going to mention the subject, the predicate, the place, the time, the relationship, the kul, the juz. My hand was hurting me. Which part? So your hand wasn't hurting you? Yeah, it was hurting me. It's hurting me. That's not your hand. I'm talking about this part of the hand. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's depending on what you're talking about. So you don't mention it all the time. These are understood. And not having a background about the Quran or about the Hadith may seem to have caused contradiction. Unity of time. All the students are present. All the students were not present. Like I said it today. The real contradictory is when it's the same time. This is today. This is today. And if they're both contradictory at the same time, then they get contradiction. If it's different, then it's not contradiction. Okay? This is a bit different. Quwwa and bil fa'il. Because these are subject, the time, zaman, place, makan, then, yeah, you don't have to call it mawdu and mahmud. Call it mawdu and call it mahmud. Now here, bil quwwa and bil fa'il. What does bil quwwa mean? Capacity. That they have not reached that status yet. But what is it? Bil quwwa means it has a capacity to become that thing. And bil fa'il means it actually is right now. Do you understand? So for example, you are the leaders. No, we're not. We're just little kids in class. What I mean by you are leaders? Bil quwwa. You have the potential to become the leaders. Yes? So imagine you say, oh, you come to class one day and say, what? Teachers, you got out today's holiday today. Say, what are you talking about? So we're the leaders. Yes, you said yesterday you're leaders, and after it, so you do your own syllogism, your own argument. That you said that we are teachers, everything you say, we are leaders. You said we are leaders, everything you say is true, so therefore we are leaders is true, and leaders have authority to command, so therefore we command you to have no class today. But why? Because you are leaders, meaning what? Bil quwwa, not bil fa'il. Do you understand? So for example, you have here, so all students are potentially great scholars. If you say here, some students are not actually great scholars, it's not really. But see, we're not going to say potentially and actually. Is understood from the context. Do you understand? So the real contradictory will be what? Some students are not potentially great scholars. Then these are contradictory now, because you're talking about it in both ways. The A is being contradicted by the O proposition, and they both have the same potential. It's both talking about what? Bil quwwa. Condition. If they understand unit 1, they're all going to pass. They're all going to pass if they sleep. Not going to pass if they sleep. It's different. You get the idea. So you have these 8 conditions. What's a real contradictory? It has the same shart, the same condition. Okay? And kul and juz parts. We're talking about you're talking about the exact same parts. No juz are if I say, for example, now here, I wouldn't mention this my normal speech. I would assume that no one's understanding this, are they? You say, yes, some are understanding. The whole thing, no. So I'm talking about the whole thing, you're talking about part of it. So you have to make sure that we have the same. You're talking about the kul and the juz. You're both talking wholly or partially. Then you get contradiction. Yes? Nisba, relative. So all the boys are students of the maths teacher. And all the boys are not students of the science teacher. Different relationships. Make sense? Okay? Okay. So let's try this here now. Let's try a few examples here. Now actually get down to the nitty-gritty of this. So قالوا, they said, the disbelievers said, ما أنزل الله على بشر من شيء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not reveal upon any human being anything. Now, what is this going to be? What is this basically? What do you think this one?
That any human being.
What would you make this? Huh? A proposition? Ma anzal Allah. E proposition. I'll make it. This is basically the concept in here is an E proposition. What is it?
Allah has not sent.
But you can't have a subject and predicate in it. Sent is a verb.
No.
Yeah. So you see here. Means to say no thing. Min shay. No thing. Is what? Is a thing. No thing is a thing sent by Allah.
But is that sent still about that?
Yeah, but it's a thing, isn't it? A thing is a thing. We have two things now, isn't it? So we have here, we have a circle, we have things, and things sent by Allah, and things sent by Allah, and then we have no thing, see here, Nothing exists in here. Make sense? That's what ayah is saying. That's the crux of the ayah, the verse. That they're saying here, nothing is sent by Allah in terms of wahi. Now, what kind of proposition is this? An E proposition. So now, even in law, how do you disprove this? What's the burden of proof now?
Bring an example.
Which is what? What kind of example?
Example which shows that something is.
But what kind of A, E, I, O? An I proposition. You get it? Yeah? You're saying right, phrase it correctly. All you need to disprove this is bring what? Because their claim is, and if you claim an E, then the duty of the other person is to bring an E proposition. E bring an I proposition. So if you claim an A, you have to bring an I to disprove it. What's the I? Allah says here, Man anzal kitab alladhi jaa bihi Musa. You all accept that Musa was. You accept the Jews and the Christians and even the pagans in Mecca. They accepted that Musa was. So how can you claim an E proposition when you yourself believe in the same equivalent? Basically, what is this now? What is this? So we say here, the Torah, isn't it? Al-Kitab alladhi, the Torah. So we say some books, isn't it? Some book is what? A, or some things is a thing sent by Allah. So to disprove the E proposition, Allah is saying, well, do you accept this? So you're either lying, so it's not a fact, it's a belief, so therefore your belief and your claim is false. Does it make sense? You understand? Can you get it? Okay. Another example here. Now again, when you وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ, what comes in the Quran? Allah says, وَقِفُوهُمْ, stop them. إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ, they will be questioned, they will be asked. How would you what kind of proposition is this? إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ, an A proposition. So all people are people who will be asked. All people, we say all humans and jinn are people or are bodies who will be questioned, people who will be questioned. Who will be what? That's what this ayah is saying, isn't it? What's the contradictory of this? So if you have a single human being who is not going to be questioned, you bring that, this verse is going to be proven false. Or, so he says, فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذَنْبِهِ إِنسٌ وَلَا جَانٌ. On that day, yeah, on that day, no ins and no jan will be questioned. So well, somebody says a contradiction. People do it. We know the answers, but people have raised these questions. Now, how can the one place Allah saying that they will be questioned, one place Allah saying not be questioned is contradictory? Say no, it's not contradictory. Why? There's different ways of answering this question. One is, I'll do the last one first. One, if you look at some tafsir, say وَيُسْأَلُ فِي وَقْتٍ آخَر, different times. So basically saying the makan is, the zaman is different. The contradiction will only occur if the zaman of both propositions are the same. The zaman is not the same. So they've answered this. Again, you don't have to, people don't learn logic. Sometimes people don't learn logic, but it's just like you understand it intuitively. So the tabi'un, when they explain the answers, they never, tabi'un, the mufassirun, early mufassirun, they never explain it because the A proposition is a contradictory, so therefore, but it's something logical. What we do is just codifying the logic that everybody uses, so it's very easy for us to just basically explain. You can sing. Yes, like times table, just learn it. So like you say, well, 9 sevens are. So if you give a math question, 9 threes are. 27 plus 10 is 37. Simple. So if you do timetables, you can do the math many ways, but this is the idea of how to get them. Another one is, the su'al is what? Equivocation is su'al. That is one is called su'al isti'lam. And one is su'al, isti'lam, or one is su'al tawbih. Tawbih. So even the word sa'ala yas'alu, su'al is used both places. They have different connotations. One is, where did you go? Oh, I didn't see namaz. Oh, I went to other masjid. Oh, okay, fine. I didn't know. And then one is, you guys went, you went somewhere, Isha time, you went somewhere else. You go, where did you go? Don't get scared. We're 20 people get scared. This guy's a scary guy. So what's the first question? Isti'lam, to seek knowledge. And the other one is what? Where were you? Why were you not in namaz? Why were you not in salah? is what? Tawbih. So even though the word sa'ala yas'alu su'alan is being asked, is being used, the su'al has different types of su'al. So the word sa'ala is used, but it means different types. Because it dalalat tadammun, su'al has many types of su'al. When you ask somebody, many types of su'al. One question is to seek knowledge, because you are unaware. And the other type of su'al is what? As a tawbih, to reprimand or rebuke. So waqifuhum innahum mas'ulun, they will be what? Rebuked. Everybody will question, why did you do this? Why did you do this in the dunya? And the other one, فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذَنْبٍ إِنسٌ وَلَا. We don't need to ask about, we know everything. You understand? So basically, one thing here it is, that is the different times, and the other one is the type of su'al. You see how these simple little things will solve the problems. Yes? And in tafsir, like, okay, modern tafsir, which were very baby language, say, or here there's a question that arises, and the other one, they won't even raise a question. Normally, other books, in the old books, they call it daf'u dakhl al-muqaddarin, the small text. They give you the answer without raising a question, and you're supposed to know the question yourself. So when they say here, وَيُسْأَلُونَ فِي وَقْتٍ السُّؤَالُ إِسْتِعْلَامٍ, they're under presumption you know what the question is. Because they don't have time to, like, that's why it's very important to get the fundamentals right. So you don't have to spell everything out by step by step. So basically, su'al isti'lam, it says su'al isti'lam, meaning it's not, both su'al are different. You get it? Okay. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. We have revealed the Quran in a night of power. Yet what does Sirah tell us? Quran was revealed over a 23-year period. So what's the answer to that question? Different makan. It was revealed from the Lawh al-Mahfuz to the Sama'ud Dunya in Laylatul Qadr. And then from Sama'ud Dunya and onto the Prophet Prophet's heart over 23 years. So the makan is different.
So it could be just like a part of the Quran is revealed in the Qadr. Most of it really.
But the kull is revealed. The kull.
Could you see some of the Quran is revealed in the Qadr?
No.
And she was talking about the whole Quran is revealed 27 years. 3.
I don't think that will, because it's talking about different places anyway. The main thing, once the place is different, is the place of nuzul. From where to where was it revealed? So here is, from here to here is Laylatul Qadr. And from here to here it is 23 years. So the makan is different. Okay, you got it? You see how it works? Innal insana la zalumun kaffar. Indeed, man is what? Oppressive and ungrateful. So now, what kind of proposition is this? I proposition? Why I? See, that's the thing there. What do you mean by insan? Huh? Is it jins? See, that's the thing now. Is it jins or is it istighraq? Is it by, so see this is now, see when you start analyzing this, is where all of these things come in handy. This one simple verse, you translate it. Let's look at this. One possibility. Let's put, let me get the, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Let's get here. Let's use orange. Let's say one possibility. One possibility we said alif lam is for jins. And in English we said that this means what? Definition. It is some. It is some. What does it mean by some? That it is a characteristic of man to be dhalum and kafar. So what you're saying here, according to your thing, what is this? This is an I proposition. So if you take the I proposition, then what contradicts an I? There's no E. There's no place of Quran that says every single human is shakur or not dhalum. Are you following? So if you take al-insan to refer to jins, I mean by definition is an E. It's an I, sorry, I don't know this my heart properly. It's an I proposition. Then there's nothing. However, what's the second possibility? What were you saying? You said it's a what? It's an istighraq. So therefore, if it's istighraq, what proposition will it become? An A proposition. Yes? So see how tafsir differs. If it's istighraq, it becomes what proposition? Sorry. It's an A proposition. And what contradicts an A? An O proposition. Do we find any verse in the Quran where we have a single human being not kafar? Is there not a single human being that is shakur? Allah says here, Ma'a Nuh, innahu kana abdan shakura. What was Nuh? Nuh was what? He's shakur. And shakur and kafar becomes what? So Abdul Rahman, he's safe. He's got no, according to his tafsir, there's no ishkal. So now you need to answer the question. So, we said istighraq. So now you have to solve the problem now. Help him out, he needs some help. Ji, how do you help him out?
kafar doesn't mean the same thing in both places. This kafar and shirk
Well, you can, that's another possibility. That kafar means here, what?
ungrateful of someone bounce, like he can't repay it back.
What other possibility do you have? Time? Is subject same? Well, it's not subject, subject, predicate, not problem. Time?
No.
Place? What else?
Pa.
Part and kul?
That's not-
What about quwa and fa'al?
Oh,
What does that mean?
okay. So indeed, a man have a possibility.
Inna al-insana dhalumun is one possibility. Inna al-insana dhalumun kafar. Every single human being, he has the potential to be dhaluman kafar. It's nature. He's bil quwa. Bil quwa meaning every single human being has the potential to be dhalum and kafar. That's it. And yes? And bil fa'l, no was what? Shakur bil fa'l. He's actually shakur, he's actually grateful. And all man have the potential and the possibility if they do not follow the guidance Allah gives them, and if they do not adhere to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they become kafar. They have the potential to become what? Dhalum and kafar. But Nuh, and obviously even other Anbiya, and even the believers, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ إِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ, and very few are shakur, meaning there are some shakur. قَلِيلٌ مِّنْ إِبَادِيَ means some. So it means here, بالقوة, all human beings are ظلوم and kafar. And من قوة and بالفعل قليل. Some of them are, only some are. Understood? You see how it works? Okay. إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء. Allah does not forgive what? Shirk. And next verse Allah says, إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا. So, okay, explain the two propositions, the question, and then the answer.
So the first one is E.
First one is E.
Yeah. The second.
Why is the first one an E?
No. Yeah, no. The first one's thing. Okay, yeah. The first one's an A.
How is that an A? لا يغفر أن يشرك به. He does not forgive shirk.
Yeah, so that's an E.
Why is it E? What's the everything? What's the cool in there?
The shirk. He does not forgive any shirk.
He does not forgive any. We could do it that way, or why don't we just? But we want to look at sins. So why don't we use sins as the subject?
Okay.
Let's do the second one first.
So he's not. Okay. The second is A.
Second one is an
A.
A. So we just say A proposition, which means here all sins are forgivable, are forgiven, are forgivable. Yes. That's A proposition. And the top one is what?
Some sins.
Which is an
I.
I proposition. A. E. No, I. It's an O.
Oh.
Because it's not la yughfar.
No, I think it says some sins are forgiven.
So all sins are forgivable, and here it says here what? The crux of this is what?
Some sins are not forgiven.
Some.
But it also says some sins are forgiven.
Some sins are non forgivable. What are you saying?
It does say after that, some sins are forgiven.
What's that?
Yeah, few more sins about it.
Yeah. But some are not forgiven, and some are forgiven.
So which one did they say?
It's both.
So
Some means some are not forgiven, and some are forgiven.
Okay, so it's an O-I.
It's an O.
But it can be I.
It's not an I proposition. The second part is an I.
Oh.
So this part is an I proposition. This is an O proposition. It's an I proposition. So what's the contradiction here? The A and the O contradict, don't they?
But the sins.
Zaman. How is Zaman?
Before death.
Before death and after death. أي لا يغفر أن يشرك به when? بعد الموت. If you die without tawbah, after death, no sin is forgiven. Shirk is not forgiven. And the rest is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And يغفر الذنوب جميعا, all sins are forgivable. في الدنيا قبل الموت. Time is a difference.
The type of sin.
But see, it says جميعا. Because it has jami'an, it seems of course with istighraq. You could argue for that, but because of the jami'an, it seems to encompass all of them. You see how to answer the question. So this question can be answered, but if you understand this can be say باختلاف الزمان, اختلاف المكان, باختلاف القوة والفعل. In 2 seconds, we just answer the whole question. That's why sometimes this tafsir very brief because You have to spell everything out. It's just like, you know all the terms and just write it. It's simple, done. You understand things are very easy. You understand? It's like you go to engineering class and you're trying to figure out isosceles triangle, equilateral triangle. You can't keep explaining it in engineering class. You can't keep on explaining all these small little basics in engineering class. So when you get to the fasting at high level, so all these basics, you use these small keywords, solve these questions. Even tafsir, in hadith, you see so many things, all the ta'aruz here. You say, no, sometimes it seems to be a contradiction in this hadith and that hadith. Well, one of these 8 is not there. And that's it is. Find out which one of the 8 is not. Okay? Too many cooks spoil the broth. So next time, I say I need help, what should you say? Too many cooks spoil the broth. I can't help you, but I'm sorry. Because if I come and help you, the proverb is what? Too many cooks spoil the broth. But yet, on the other hand, we have many hands make light work.
Different type of work.
Ah, yes. So too many cooks spoil the broth, meaning what?
Delicate.
In what?
Delicate.
In delicate work. Too many cooks spoil the broth. You see here, you can translate it if you want. So you see here, I don't know. You can translate. We get an idea. But the whole, we've got to translate the proposition. The idea is, what we're talking about, the work we're talking about. So too many hands, this is basically, too many hands, or many hands, spoil the work, and many hands lighten the work. Many hands are good, many hands are bad. That's basically saying it's contradiction. Yes?
Yeah.
So many hands are a good thing, many hands are not a good thing. That's what you're basically saying. The summary of it. So it's contradiction, but saying it, many hands are good for the work, but work is different. Broth is a what? Delicate work, and work here means what? Non-delicate work that just needs force and energy, not technicality. So again, that's why you have proverbs are contradictory, because they're always talking about different mahmil, different mawdu, different mahmud, different nisbah, different time, different place, different aspect, different persons. The early bird gets the worm, and then haste makes waste. What's the difference between the two of them? Yeah. Being early and hasting is different. They're not different. Haste means to rush something. And early means to do what? To get there on time and then do it as a normal. Yeah. So similarly comes in the Quran. Al-ajalatu min ash-shaytan. Haste is from shaitan. So don't haste things. But wasari'u ila maghfirah. Get on with it. Don't be lackadaisical or what? What's that one? Sawfa wa la'alla. What's the proverb? Kam ja'a al-thawabu. فرده فرده بواب سوف ولعل. Yeah. Great minds think alike. So we've all understood? Yes? Everyone's understood? So we all great minds that think alike. But those watching will say, food seldom differs. So all the fools in the room have agreed. Again, there must be a difference in here. Why is it? What we're talking about? Great minds think alike, fools seldom. So great minds think alike, and great minds don't think alike. Sorry, fools think alike. So you have to say, what's it thinking about? Yes? Yes, so great minds think alike, meaning they're all after great pondering and tadabbur and thinking, they come to the same conclusion. And fools seldom differ, meaning they don't have the capacity to think, so they all, whatever's a very simple information related to them, they don't critique it and they go on with it. So even in Proverbs you get these things, you have to analyze. Yes? And the problem is the capacity to think, and to think is completely gone from our education systems. Everybody seems to be watching what? TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram. The capacity to think and to process information is completely gone. That's why the education level is very, very just like, and that's why classically, like this knowledge here, when you have these what you call it, these are self-training material. So this won't get you a job anywhere unless you're teaching again. So people don't value this because they won't get you a job. It's not a skilled job that will get you. It's not a skill which will benefit other people. So therefore, you won't get paid for it. It will benefit yourself. You get what I'm saying? And all of the education system is nowadays geared towards people who are going to work in a 9-to-5 rat race, and nobody's able to come to think, analyze, think, critique. And that's what they want. That's what people want. Like just the layman, just watch your TV, just watch your Amazon Prime and your Netflix, and just do your job and work 9-to-5 and get a mortgage and just live your whole life and just stay quiet and do your stuff. And let the people who are elite think. So this is why these are very, very key. These are very, very key knowledge, science, literature, grammar, critical thinking. If you don't have this, then what? You become a slave to the system. Do you understand? So these are very, very important sciences. And unfortunately, it's gone up from all our madaris. People don't understand why we do it. A lot of the madaris have taken it out. Before it used to be actually in schools, like a standard in schools. There's one, if you call it Maryam Yusuf. So Maryam Joseph, she's actually call it Christian, and then she wrote a massive book on logic and all Islam logic grammar. Like, it's a standard. Like, you can't understand this, how difficult it is. It is like this, that everybody use it nowadays. It's very, very difficult. This was standard from education before. So everybody is well trained and well. Nowadays it's basically like, even like when you have the presidential debates and all that, it's just all nonsense. It's not making sense. Argument, just basically like a bunch of like, it's basically like animals are arguing, but you have a voice and they have like, they can talk a bit more. But it's like whoever got the loudest voice wins. Whoever got the biggest, seriously, whoever got the best sound bites wins. There's no like, anything you can't like critique or think or stop. It's just about what song's good. You get what I'm saying? Even in Islamic fields, like people who are just debating, they're like, what are you really saying? What do you understand what you're talking about? It's just like whoever like sound bites, the best videos, the best cameras, and who got the biggest imam or the biggest. Like, you have to sit down and think and critique, analyze, open mind. Then you get some kind of knowledge. If not, it just. Anyways, rant. What's that? That rant. It's a thing. All education system, some education system is not good. So recap what we discussed so far. Let's go quick recap. We have concepts. These concepts are expressed using terms. Terms must be terms that are understood by everybody, layman. However, when you get particular in sciences, you need to do what? Have a definition of that term. When you have a definition, definition must be what? Inclusive and exclusive. Inclusive means it must be jami, and it must also be man. It shouldn't have dawr. It shouldn't have a circular definition where we just go around in circles without knowing what it is. Who's a woman? One identifies as a woman. It goes around in circles. You can't use the same word that you know in definition. If not, it doesn't make sense. The definition is just doesn't any make sense. And then I said, it's okay. Now the Greeks, they used to use a particular way of definition, defining things. They used to use a genus and a differential, the jins and the fasal. And then when you have two concepts, the link between these two concepts can either be what? Tasawin. Tasawin means they're both the same. Opposite of this is tabayu, means both are completely different and there's no overlap between them. Next two are what? Umum. Umum khusus min wajh. Umum khusus min mutlaq is which one? This is what? Min wajhin. And this is? Umum khusus mutlaq. When one falls under the other, so batsman and cricketer, that's what? Umum khusus mutlaq. What mutlaq? Mutlaq? Umum khusus mutlaq. And then cricketer and athlete, train and mode of transport, underground and train, that's mutlaq. And underground and train, no, that's min wajhin. Cricket and athlete. No. What I said?
The
train and mode of transport is what? Umum khusus mutlaq.
No, it's mean one thing because trains can be used for cargo.
It's a mode of transport, not transporting cargo. See, again, definition, isn't it? What do you mean by, again, equivocation? What do you mean mode of transport? What do you transporting human beings or transporting goods? So that's why we have a difference. So we can have a big argument, but we not come to terms. What do we mean by transport? See where it comes out. Okay. Then we had fallacies. Fallacies regarding what? Terms, which is what? You have equivocation, where you can either have one word for two terms, or you have two terms for one word. And they have other things. You talk about iltizam, mutabaqa, division, composition. All of these are fallacies regarding terms. And then we have a proposition. We put the two terms together, make a proposition. The proposition has certain qualities. Either it's going to be true or false.
Okay, right.
If it's false, then we no point discussing mantiq. It's false. If it's true, then we go forward. They're either going to be universal or particular. Universal in Arabic is called not umum, kulli, and particular is called juz'i. Affirmative, negative, mujiba or saliba. And then distributed or undistributed. What's distributed? Well, terms are distributed, but you can only know the terms when they come to proposition. So in the A proposition, what's distributed? Subject. And the E proposition was distributed? Both are distributed. In the I proposition, what's distributed? Nothing. And in the A, E, I, and the O proposition, a predicate distributed. And then we said here, the link between the subject and the predicate can either be necessary, impossible, or contingent. Necessary means it has to be as such, it can't be anything different. Impossible means it can't come together, it has to be separate. You can't link the A and the B. And contingent means it can. So for example, and we said these links can either be what? Physical, metaphysical. And physical is what? Physical is what is our observation, empirical evidence based on our observations. So for example, if you have a pen and it weighs this much, necessarily it is wajib for it to drop at this speed. How? Empirically and adatan. But not aqlan. If Allah wants to suspend it because He's the one who creates these laws. And that's metaphysical. And then when we have a proposition, we now learn to deduce information from one proposition. So what's the first way of deducing information? Conversion. And what's conversion called in Arabic? Aks mustawin. What's it called? Aks mustawin. And how do you convert? What can convert? You can convert the two at the corners.
So E and the I.
The E can convert itself, and the I can convert to itself. Yes?
And the I and the E to the O.
Huh?
The
And the A
I-
can't convert. We can only convert an A, not keeping it as an A, but making it into an O. Into an I. Yes? You can convert the A, make it into an I. Yes? No Muslims are polytheists, no polytheists are Muslims. That will work. And some Muslims are Arabs, some Muslims are not, some Arabs are Muslims. That will convert. If an A, you can't say all or it might work. It will work when what? When the nisbah is tasawi. Good. So conversion, aks mustawi. And then we did contradiction. We did obversion. How does obversion work? When you do what?
Into E.
You make the A into an E and an E into an A, or an I into an O and O into an I. What's conversion? What does obversion mean?
It is the
You change the quality. So you make the affirmative into a negative, and negative into an affirmative. And then what you also do?
The predicate.
You change the predicate into the predicate complement. Yes, we did that last lesson. And then contradiction is what? If one, when you have one proposition, the opposite of that, the contradiction means the other can't be true. One is true that necessitates the other is false. And what's contradictory? The A and the O and the E and the I. They're contradictory. And for contradiction to be actually come to true, you have to make sure there's no fallacies of equivocation and that kind of stuff. And they must have what? They must both be talking about the same subject, predicate, time, place, nisbah, link, quwan, file, tools, structure, all these, and you can even add on more. But as people have mentioned in the books of Mantiq in Arabic, you can even say the same tool. I can write, but I can't write. I can write with a pen, I can't write with a pencil. I can write with my left hand, not my right hand. You get what I'm saying? So you can even add in more stuff as well. But you get the whole, it's a concept that you must make sure that you're actually talking about the same thing in the same way. That's a summary of it, basically. An indirect inference hasn't come as yet. Fahimt, everybody understanding? Or all the students understanding? Is it mujibah kulliya, mujibah juziyya? Is it a proposition? Yes? So, and what about the predicate? Are all the students understanding all the information?
Yeah.
Yes? If I question you and I prove that, how do I prove you understand? Huh?
Question us when we just
Question us. And when I've proven right, and if you get a single thing wrong, then it's proven that all of the students don't understand. Correct? If I get a single question and I prove that one of you don't answer the one thing, that means that what? All of you don't understand everything.
No.
Yeah.
Some of us don't understand everything.
But exactly, so you can't have an A if your claim is all students understand everything.
No, if the A is first, that means the O is true because A and the O are things.
Exactly. So I want to prove the O to you. I will give you one. I give one of you one question.
Oh, but O.
Yeah, and prove the O. That means the A can't be true.
Yes, the
A E. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't mean the E is true though.
I'm not saying the A is true. I'm not claiming that all of you. I'm not saying none of you understand. See, it's no. I'm not saying none of you don't understand. Your claim is what? All of you understand. Is it on? Is it off?
So,
Yeah. I'm just claiming that all of you. Your claim is all of you understand everything. That's your claim, isn't it? So all I have to do is prove an O proposition now, isn't it? If I ask any one of you one question, you're doing that one question. That's it. You're gone. I won. Isn't it? For me to prove that none of you understand anything, what do you have to do?
the I.
Just get one thing right. Just say one thing. Aks Mustafa. You just say definition, and that's it. You won. Yes, you get what I'm saying. So if I say to you, you don't understand, none of you understand anything. That's metaphorical, isn't it? But if I'm literally speaking, then all you have to do is give me one answer. I know one thing, and that's it. You proved it. You won. So that's the whole thing. Now, who did the burden lie upon? But anyways, yes. Subhanallah.